this whole like narrative about all the protesters that were shot in Iran during this whole thing in January, there's a big story that's unraveling with this too. And it seems like there were definitely protests going on. There was probably a harsh response to them, like all governments do. But in the midst of those protests, there were groups that were armed by the US and Israel. And they were among the protesters, shooting at the cops and shooting at the protesters. A lot of government officials actually confirmed this as well. And Trump confirmed this to some extent today as well. There were a couple thousand people that probably died in this. I don't know what the estimates are, but it's definitely like under 10,000, closer to 5,000 maybe. And that's still being high with the number. They say like 30,000, 45,000, which is obnoxious because the numbers that they have given for Gaza was like 30,000 in a couple months, and they were carpet bombing the whole place. So if you have repressive action to a reaction to a protest, the death count is not going to stack up like 10 times faster than Gaza did. That's just crazy business. So let's hear what Trump says, and then we'll look through some of those videos that I found.
You know, we sent some guns, but the group that was supposed to give, which I said would happen to my people, I said it, I called it exactly.
What the hell is this music in the background? It's probably related to his Easter thing, but
It's a lot of guns. They were supposed to go to the people so they could fight back against these thugs. You know what happened? The people that they sent them to kept them because they said, what a beautiful gun, I think I'll keep it. So I'm very upset with a certain group of people, and they're going to pay a big price for that. But the Iranian people will.
so he's saying that he sent guns and the guns were kept. I don't think that's what actually happened. I think they sent the guns and the mission was not really completed.
Fight back as soon as they know they're not going to be shot and as soon as they can get weapons. If they had weapons.
Let's see. So this is the footage that a lot of people were showing to say that the security forces were taking out protesters. Um, just indiscriminate. So there were literally shootouts on the street, but the shootouts were going both ways, and these were militias on the streets that were armed by the US Israel. So yeah, somebody pointed out that these are all zoomed in. It's all like quick zooms. You see them firing their guns, but then you see other people, you see a guy in the background on his phone and shit. And then you see those other people, like if they were able to zoom out, people are walking by kind of casually while these firefights going on. There's another video where you can see a security truck drive by and then a bunch of people get out of this car and start firing on them. And it was likely these rebel militias that got armed. And even Mike Pompeo went on Twitter, the former CIA head, and he admitted that the Mossad was probably in the streets with the Iranian protesters. And these kind of firefights were going on throughout January. There was something on Al Jazeera where they were talking about this.
In the first days, it was just totally peaceful protests, but those forces of Mossad and some Kurdish groups have turned it in slaughtering those peaceful people in the streets. But they have made a kind of a false flag. And they said that it was done by, for example, the military forces of Iran.
See, I don't doubt that any government is cruel with protesters that rise up in the streets. The nature of government is to protect the racket. So they're definitely going to do that. But the level of brutality that's being described, it's atrocity propaganda. When it's like the beheaded babies and all of the stuff that they made up about October 7th that wasn't true, that got them to get people all hyped up on that shit. It's atrocity propaganda. And they didn't even tell us in the US that there were like literal gunfights between people who embedded themselves with the protesters and the police. Now, if that happened here, if there were people who were literally shooting at ICE there would be a similar situation. And again, I don't think that it was the protesters that were shooting at the cops here in Tehran. It was these armed militia groups that were given these weapons by the US and Israel.